strongholds in Sicily, Lilybaeum and Drepana, but these cities were impregnable by land. Publius Claudius Pulcher, the consul of 249, recklessly tried to take the latter from the sea, but he suffered a terrible defeat. His colleague Lucius Junius Pallas likewise lost his fleet off Lilybaeum. Without the Corpus, Roman warships had lost their advantage. By now, both sides were drained and could not undertake large-scale operations. The number of Roman citizens who were being called up for war had been reduced by 17% in 2 decades, a result of the massive bloodshed. The only military activity during this period was the landing in Sicily of Hamilcar Barca in 247, who harassed the Romans with a mercenary army from a citadel he built on Mount Eryx. 70. Finally, unable to take the Punic fortresses in Sicily, Rome tried to decide the war at sea and built a new navy, thanks to a forced borrowing from the rich. In 242, 200 quinqueremes under consul Gaius Lutatius Catulus blockaded Drepana. The rescue fleet from Carthage arrived the next year, but was largely undermanned and soundly defeated by Catulus. Exhausted and unable to bring supplies to Sicily, Carthage sued for peace. Catulus and Hamilcar negotiated a treaty, which was somewhat lenient to Carthage, but the Roman people rejected it and imposed harsher terms. Carthage had to pay 1,000 talents immediately and 2,200 over 10 years, and evacuate Sicily. The fine was so high that Carthage could not pay Hamilcar's mercenaries, who had been shipped back to Africa. They revolted during the Mercenary War, which Carthage suppressed with enormous difficulty. Meanwhile, Rome took advantage of a similar revolt in Sardinia to seize the island from Carthage, in violation of the peace treaty. This stab in the back led to permanent bitterness in Carthage. 71. Second Punic War. Principal offensives of the war: Rome, red; Hannibal, green; Hasdrubal, purple. After its victory, the Republic shifted its attention to its northern border as the Insubres and Boii were threatening Italy. 72. Meanwhile, Carthage compensated her loss of Sicily and Sardinia with conquest of southern Hispania, up to Salamanca, and its rich silver mines. 73. This enterprise was the work of the Barcid family headed by Hamilcar, the former commander in Sicily. Hamilcar nonetheless died against the Lauretani in 228. His son-in-law Hasdrubal the Fair, the founder of Carthago Nova, and his 3 sons Hannibal, Hasdrubal, and Mago, succeeded him. This rapid expansion worried Rome, which concluded a treaty with Hasdrubal in 226, stating that Carthage could not cross the Ebro River. 75. 76. However, the city of Saguntum, located in the south of the Ebro, appealed to Rome in 222 to act as arbitrator during a stasis. Hannibal dismissed Roman rights on the city, and took it in 219. 77. At Rome, the Cornelii and the Aemilii considered the capture of Saguntum a casus belli. 78, and won the debate against Fabius Maximus Verrucosius, who wanted to negotiate. An embassy carrying an ultimatum was sent to Carthage, asking its senate to condemn Hannibal's deeds. The Carthaginian refused, triggering the Second Punic War. 79. Initially, the Republic's plan was to carry war outside Italy, sending the consuls P. Cornelius Scipio to Hispania and T. Sempronius Longus to Africa, while their naval superiority prevented Carthage from attacking from the sea. 80. This plan was thwarted by Hannibal's bold move to Italy. In May 218, he crossed the Ebro with a large army of about 100,000 soldiers and 37 elephants. 81. He passed in Gaul, crossed the Rhone, then the Alps, possibly through the Col de Clapia, 2,491 meters high. 82. This famous exploit cost him almost half of his troops. 83. but he could now rely on the Boii and Insubres, still at war with Rome. 84. Publius Scipio, who had failed to block Hannibal on the Rhone, sent his elder brother Neus with the main part of his army in Hispania according to the initial plan, and went back to Italy with threats to resist Hannibal in Italy, but he was defeated and wounded near Pavia. Hannibal then marched south and won 3 outstanding victories. The first one was on the banks of the Trebia in December 218, where he defeated the other consul T. Sempronius Longus thanks to his brother Mago, who had concealed some elite troops behind the legions and attacked them from the rear once fighting Hannibal. More than half of the Roman army was lost. Hannibal then ravaged the country around Arretium to lure the new consul C. Flaminius into a trap at Lake Trasimene. He had hidden his troops in the hills surrounding the lake and attacked Flaminius when he was cornered on the shore. This clever ambush resulted in the death of the consul and the complete destruction of his army of 30,000 men. In 216 the new consuls L. Aemilius Paulus and C. Terentius Varro mustered the biggest army possible, with 8 legions some 80,000 soldiers, twice as many as the Punic army, and confronted Hannibal, who was encamped at Cannae, in Apulia. Despite his numerical disadvantage, Hannibal used his heavier cavalry to rout the Roman wings and envelop their infantry, whom he annihilated. In terms of casualties, the Battle of Cannae was the worst defeat in the history of Rome. Only 14,500 soldiers escaped. Paulus was killed as well as 80 senators. 85, 86. Soon after, the Boii ambushed the army of the consul-elect for 215, L. Postumius Albinus, who died with all his army of 25,000 men in the Battle of Silver-Litana. A Carthaginian quarter shekel perhaps minted in Spain. The obverse may depict Hannibal under the trays of young Melkart. Vervus features one of his famous war elephants. 87. These disasters triggered a wave of defection among Roman allies with the rebellions of the Samnites, Oscans, Lucanians, and Greek cities of southern Italy. 88. In Macedonia, Philip V also made an alliance with Hannibal in order to take Illyria and the area around Epidamnus, occupied by Rome. His attack on Apollonia started the First Macedonian War. In 215, Hiero II of Syracuse died of old age, and his young grandson Hieronymus broke the long alliance with Rome to side with Carthage. At this desperate point, the aggressive strategy against Hannibal advocated by the Scipians was abandoned in favor of delaying tactics that avoided direct confrontation with him. Its main proponents were the consuls Q. Fabius Maximus Verrucosius, nicknamed Cunctator, the delayer, M. Claudius Marcellus, and Q. Fulvius Flaccus. The Fabian strategy favored a slow reconquest of the lost territories, since Hannibal could not be everywhere to defend them. 89. Although he remained invincible on the battlefield, defeating all the Roman armies on his way, he could not prevent Claudius Marcellus from taking Syracuse in 212 after a long siege, nor the fall of his bases of Capua and Tarentum in 211 and 209. In Hispania, the situation was overall much better for Rome. This theatre was mostly commanded by the brothers Publius and Gnaeus Scipio, who won the battles of Cissa in 218, soon after Hannibal's departure, and Dertosa against his brother Hasdrubal in 215, which enabled them to conquer the eastern coast of Hispania. In 211, however, Hasdrubal and Mago Barca successfully turned the Celtiberian tribes that supported the Scipians, and attacked them simultaneously at the Battle of the Upper Baetis, in which the Scipians' brothers died. 90. Publius' son, the future Scipio Africanus, was then elected with a special proconsulship to lead the Hispanic campaign. He soon showed outstanding skills as a commander, winning a series of battles with ingenious tactics. In 209, he took Carthago Nova, the main Punic base in Hispania, then defeated Hasdrubal at the Battle of Bacula the next year. 90. After his defeat, Carthage ordered Hasdrubal to reinforce his brother in Italy. Since he could not use ships, he followed the same route as his brother through the Alps, but this time it was the Carthaginians who were surprised. The consuls M. Livius Salinator and C. Claudius Nero were awaiting him and defeated him in the Battle of the Metaurus, where Hasdrubal died. 91. It was the turning point of the war. The attrition campaign had indeed worked well. Hannibal's troops were now depleted. He only had one elephant left, Surus, and retreated to Bruttium, on the defensive. In Greece, Rome contained Philip V without devoting too many forces by setting an alliance with the Aetolian League, Sparta, and Pergamon, which also prevented Philip from aiding Hannibal. Fear with Macedon resulted in a stalemate, with the Treaty of Finis signed in 205. In Hispania, Scipio continued his successful campaign at the battles of Carmina in 207, and Illapa, now Seville, in 206, which ended the Punic threat on the peninsula. 92. Elected consul in 205, he convinced the Senate to cancel the Fabian strategy and instead to invade Africa with the support of the Numidian king Massinissa, who had defected to Rome. Scipio landed in Africa in 204. He took Utica and then won the Battle of the Great Plains, which prompted Carthage to recall Hannibal from Italy and open peace negotiations with Rome. The talks nevertheless failed because Scipio wanted to impose harsher terms on Carthage, in order to avoid it from rising again as a threat. Hannibal was therefore sent to face Scipio at Zama. Scipio could now use the heavy Numidian cavalry of Massinissa, which had hitherto been so successful against Rome, to rout the Punic wings, then flank the infantry, as Hannibal had done at Cannae. Defeated for the first time, Hannibal convinced the Carthaginian Senate to pay the war indemnity, which was even harsher than that of 241, 10,000 talents in 50 installments. Carthage furthermore had to give up all its elephants, all its fleet but 10 triremes, all its possessions outside its core territory in Africa, what is now Tunisia, and could not declare war without Roman authorization. In effect, Carthage was condemned to be a minor power, while Rome recovered from a desperate situation to dominate the western Mediterranean. Roman supremacy in the Greek East. Macedonian Wars. Macedonia, Greece and Asia at the outbreak of the Second Macedonian War, 200 BC. Rome's preoccupation with its war with Carthage provided an opportunity for Philip V of the Kingdom of Macedonia, located in the north of the Greek peninsula, to attempt to extend his power westward. Philip sent ambassadors to Hannibal's camp in Italy, to negotiate an alliance as common enemies of Rome. 93-94. However, Rome discovered the agreement when Philip's emissaries were captured by a Roman fleet. 93. The First Macedonian War saw the Romans involved directly in only limited land operations, but they ultimately achieved their objective of occupying Philip and preventing him from aiding Hannibal. The past century had seen the Greek world dominated by the three primary successor kingdoms of Alexander the Great's empire: Ptolemaic Egypt, Macedonia, and the Seleucid Empire. In 202, internal problems led to a weakening of Egypt's position, disrupting the power balance among the successor states. Macedonia and the Seleucid Empire agreed to an alliance to conquer and divide Egypt. 95. Fearing this increasingly unstable situation, several small Greek kingdoms sent delegations to Rome to seek an alliance. 96. Their delegation succeeded, even though prior Greek attempts to involve Rome in Greek affairs had been met with Roman apathy. Our primary source about these events, the surviving works of Polybius, do not state Rome's reason for getting involved. Rome gave Philip an ultimatum to cease his campaigns against Rome's new Greek allies. Doubting Rome's strength a reasonable doubt. Given Rome's performance in the First Macedonian War, Philip ignored the request, and Rome sent an army of Romans and Greek allies beginning the Second Macedonian War. 97. Despite his recent successes against the Greeks and earlier successes against Rome, Philip's army buckled under the pressure from the Roman-Greek army. In 197, the Romans decisively defeated Philip at the Battle of Sinope, and Philip was forced to give up his recent Greek conquests. 98. The Romans declared the peace of the Greeks, believing that Philip's defeat meant that Greece would be stable. They pulled out of Greece entirely, maintaining minimal contacts with their Greek allies. 99. With Egypt and Macedonia weakened, the Seleucid Empire made increasingly aggressive and successful attempts to conquer the entire Greek world. 100. Now not only Rome's allies against Philip, but even Philip himself, sought a Roman alliance against the Seleucids. 101. The situation was made worse by the fact that Hannibal was now a chief military advisor to the Seleucid emperor, and the two were believed to be planning an outright conquest not just of Greece, but of Rome itself. 102. The Seleucids were much stronger than the Macedonians had ever been, because they controlled much of the former Persian Empire and by now had almost entirely reassembled Alexander the Great's former empire. 102. Fearing the worst, the Romans began a major mobilization, all but pulling out of recently conquered Spain and Gaul. 102. They even established a major garrison in Sicily in case the Seleucids ever got to Italy. 102. This fear was shared by Rome's Greek allies, who had largely ignored Rome in the years after the Second Macedonian War, but now followed Rome again for the first time since that war. 102. A major Roman marble bust of Scipio Africanus, found in the tomb of the Scipios. Greek force was mobilized under the command of the great hero of Second Punic War, Scipio Africanus, and set out for Greece beginning the Roman-Seleucid War. After initial fighting that led serious Seleucid weaknesses, the Seleucids tried to turn Roman strength against them at the Battle of Thermopylae, as they believed the 300 Spartans had done centuries earlier. 101. Like the Spartans, the Seleucids lost the battle, and were forced to evacuate Greece. 101. The Romans pursued the Seleucids by crossing the Hellespont, which marked the first time a Roman army had ever entered Asia. 101. The decisive engagement was fought at the Battle of Magnesia, resulting in a complete Roman victory. 101. 103. The Seleucids sued for peace, and Rome forced them to give up their recent Greek conquests. Although they still controlled a great deal of territory, this defeat marked the decline of the empire, as they were to begin facing increasingly aggressive subjects in the east, the Parthians, and the west, the Greeks. The empire disintegrated into a rump over the course of the next century, when it was eclipsed by Pontus. Following Magnesia, Rome again withdrew from Greece, assuming, or hoping, that the lack of a major Greek power would ensure a stable peace. In fact, it did the opposite. 104. Conquest of Greece. Scene of the Battle of Corinth, 146 BC. Last day before the Roman legions looted and burned the Greek city of Corinth. The last day on Corinth. Tony Robert Fleury, 1870. In 179, Philip died. 105. His talented and ambitious son, Perseus, took the throne and showed a renewed interest in conquering Greece. 106. With her Greek allies facing a major new threat, Rome declared war on Macedonia again, starting the Third Macedonian War. Perseus initially had some success against the Romans. However, Rome responded by sending a stronger army. This second consular army decisively defeated the Macedonians at the Battle of Pydna in 168-107, and the Macedonians capitulated, ending war. 108. Convinced now that the Greeks